He's a general, all-round nice guy. Used to be the accountant for Kerry Packer. Helped him save a fortune. He knows what he's on about, and he doesn't cut corners. So he's getting you what you're entitled to, not going beyond that. One of the things that he has done is he's kept us really well informed on what the state government is issuing. But we'll get to that in a little while. We'll get a little bit more about Allan's background, because we've got a couple of minutes before it's right on the 4 o'clock. So, Allan, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you come to be working for Kerry Packer?
Well, oddly enough, I just applied for the job. and it was really interesting in those days, of course. Kerry said, sure, we'll give you a go for 6 months, and at the end of 6 months, you'll either have double the pay or be out the door. And that's actually a very good way of looking at it. And as an accountant, you've got to be worth more than what you paid. And it stayed with me my entire career that if I'm doing something for somebody and they're paying me, I want to be worth double what that person's paying me. And as an accountant, sometimes you think that's not possible, but it actually is. It is.
Absolutely. So you're involved in a whole lot of different things. You're involved in motorsports at that time, and you're involved in, you met an amazing array of people through your association with Kerry.
It's exactly. And Kerry was very much into cars, and Consolidated Press were very much into vehicles. And our fleet of vehicles was like, we had a Porsche, De Tomaso, all sorts of vehicles. And part of my salary package, and this is before FBT, so eat your heart out, part of my salary package was to restore an E-Type Jag that I bought in the UK. And I restored that through the company, through the business, and had a bit of salary sacrifice for it. And I finished up at the end of it having a beautiful E-Type Jag, which I still wish I had today.
Yes. So,
well, before FBT, and your records and things were quite different.
Absolutely. Look, hey, we used to also be able to go out for lunches and bill that to the Australian government too.
Exactly.
These are days long gone by, and it's sad in a lot of ways that we've lost our sense of fun. And right now, with the whole C19, we've even got Anastasia Palisade saying this is no time for fun. I mean, it's a bit sad.
I know, and they even look like closing Victoria Park Golf Club. How can they do that? That's a bit rough. I played on Sunday. I think it's the last game I'm going to be able to play there.
There you go. So, well, they're going for redevelopment there and everything else. So, it will be a great shame. Look, our lives are undoubtedly going to be changed through this time period, and that's one of the reasons why we're holding these shows. For those that have just joined us, we've got Allan Mason from Encore Accounting. He's got an amazing background, and we're chatting a little bit about that. But what we really wanted to get to, Allan sent through a post on the state government offerings, and when I had a quick look at it, I had a glance, and I kind of, very passé to start with. And then I went, hey, hang on, they're giving interest-free loans to people. And that was the one thing that stood out. I couldn't see a whole lot when I first looked at it. So let's just dissect it a little bit piece by piece, Allan, because you're the expert here, not me. So tell me, what are some of the things? Let's start with the little stuff and work up to we can get an interest-free loan. What are some of the little things that they're helping us out with?
Well, the interest-free loan is quite simply that, from 100 to 250,000. It's based on wages. First year, interest-free. Years 2 and 3, you pay interest, but you don't have to pay a principal repayment. And then from years 7 to 10, it's paid off over, you start to make principal and interest reductions. So it's not a grant, it's not a gift, you've got to pay it back. It's based on wages. 50% of your wages for the 18 and 19 year. So again, if your wages are not enough, then you won't qualify. And when I say wages, I'm talking super, I'm talking your wages as a director, as an employee. They talk about also if you're a sole trader, and that's very unclear, the way the wording of that is. It's like, I'm looking at that going, whoa.
I think when I heard Anastasia talk about this, she was inferring that as a sole trader you would be able to do this, but it was, as you said, it's all very vague, and the devil's in the details, as it always is. We can't make a judgment until we see the actual documentation, but it looks like that's what about things like if you have a company car, is that included in the wages?
No, No, it's not.
Okay, so there's none of the FBT salary sacrifice amounts kept in. It's just the basic wages bill.
Plus super. And it specifically says that wages, and you can add super.
Right.
And that's only the basis. So let's say you've got $1 million worth of wages, the maximum is 250. So it's not going to matter.
But when we add this to the other different stimulus survival packages that the federal government put on, yes, this as one thing, you can look at it and go, well, hey, that's not awesome. But when you look at the conglomerate of all the different things, and yes, it means that you're going to have to apply for different grants and have different subsidies. But with that, I mean, as we were talking earlier, the governments are doing an amazing job on doing their very best to keep the country afloat.
Exactly. Look, there are many different types of stimuluses out there, and it depends on your business, how it applies. Unfortunately, most of them are employment related. Most of them relate to keeping people off the unemployment benefit. So the government's given different stimulus packages along that line. This is one of them. So when I look at it from the point of view of sole traders, there's very little out there. This can be, the way I read it is that depending on how much drawings or profit you make, you could qualify for this if you're a sole trader and you only wage yourself. And I talked about drawings, but gosh, you'd want to have a lot of drawings to qualify.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. What's the minimum loan requirement that they're looking at?
The minimum is $100,000.
Okay, so you have to have at least $200,000 average wages over the
2 years.
So those 2 years. So so it is for the larger small businesses. Okay, so for the then there was the payroll tax and both and that sort of stuff.
So there's no minimum. So
right. Thank you.
So there's no minimum. It's 100 interest free, and then the balance will
have interest on. Okay, so even if you had $100,000 in wages for those 2 years, you can borrow $50,000.
Exactly.
Which and that would be a helpful working capital during this time period. And hey, during the GFC, nobody got that sort of break. Nobody.
Yeah. And what we have to do, and us as an accounting firm looking after our clients, speaking to, I think I had 40 emails this morning, it was like, what suits your business? What can we do for you? And, if you're an employer, okay, this might work. If you're not an employer, we want to look at the package stimulus number 2, where you get the minimum of $10,000. Again, you have to be employing somebody to get the minimum of 10 for the quarter, and then 10 for the June quarter. But you've got to look at your business and tailor it. And when I say tailor it, I'm going to say you've got to be a little bit creative there, because when you tailor it, you've got to go, well, hang on, this applies if I've got a wage, even if my W1 has a salary on it, and my W2, which is the PAYG deducted, even if that's zero, you still qualify for 10 grand.
Yeah.
So you need to step back on this and be creative. You need to look at it and see what can apply for you, and maybe make it work a little better. You know what they say about accountants?
Absolutely. So we do need to.
What was that number again?
We do need to work. We do need to work with our accountants in relation to this. So there's this. Yes, we can loan anything up to 100,000 is interest free for the first year. So even if we can get some funds that we then have to pay back, but it's basically we've been able to go through that dip, the old J curve, on our way back up. Fantastic. The second part was in relation to payroll tax, and I shrugged my shoulders and said, so what? For our community, there's not going to be a lot there, because basically with you're having $1.2 million in wages before you start paying payroll tax, there's not going to be a lot for our community, I don't think.
Exactly, and I saw that as not being much help. You've got some tiny little things like electricity rebates and things, but the payroll tax, I mean, I suppose if you're in that level and paying that level of payroll,
absolutely
helpful. A few clients like that, not a lot.
They are still doing everything they can, and remember, the Queensland government doesn't have a lot of money right now anyway. So,
but they're going to lend out 250s to everybody, 500 mil.
Well, they're going to loan that, but they're going to ask for it back. So there is that. Now, with the really interesting thing with the solar rebate, it's $200 for households. It's $500 for businesses. So I'm going to say if you can find a way, to bring your household and potentially even get billed to your business, whether you claim all of that from your business or not, is a very important factor. Just because that's who's getting billed doesn't mean that that's who has to pay 100% of the bill. So there could be a way where you can shift that around and maximise some benefit there.
You must be an accountant, Kevin, because you've been very creative.
I'm a little bit like that. I've always liked to think about how can the rules apply differently to me. But anyway, we won't.
People got to work from home at the moment.
I won't confess everything right now. So there was that. There was a payroll tax. Was there anything else that the state government talked about?
I think it's very little, and most taxes come from the federal area. The one in regard to depreciation allowances, being able to write off 150, I don't know why that's come in, because if you're really suffering in your business, you're not going to be able to purchase equipment for 150,000. But I think just coming back to the state government loan of 250, you've got to be careful how it's used. It can't be used to pay off debt. It's got to be used for future overheads, creditors, wages, just normal.
So it's got to be used in working capital as opposed to debt reduction.
Exactly. It can't be used to refinancing existing loans. It can't be used to purchase equipment or other assets. And then once you receive the money, you will be audited and you'll be asked to provide a statement as to how the money's been used.
So there's going to be costs associated with being audited as well.
Exactly. And you've got to supply that schedule of how the money's been used over the period that you've used it. My recommendation is that you put the money into an account and then draw down to pay your wages and whatever you need to do over the next couple of years. We don't know how long this is going to go for. We've already done about 3 applications online. So the system's up and running, everything's working.
And they have said first come, best dressed.
Exactly.
Once we've spent $500 million, the rest of you can go staff.
Exactly. And that's why we jumped in very, very quickly. The first one we did was over the weekend.
Yeah.
And it only got released on Friday, but we had already lodged an expression of interest.
Yeah, fantastic.
And one of the problems is the website itself. There are a couple of errors in the application form. Doesn't add in other assets in one section, and I don't know why, but I just missed it. So there's a couple of errors in it, but it works. You can eventually upload and go back.
So the reality is the state government doesn't tax us anywhere near as much as the federal government does. They do collect different taxes and that sort of stuff. They don't have as much influence over how we run our business and how the global economy runs. And I guess that's what's reflected in in the offering that they've got there. And when we come down to council, once again, they collect fewer taxes. We feel it harder because they're more coming out of us personally. But they have put a moratorium on all small business licensing fees and all that sort of stuff. Hey, you can even park wherever you want right now. There's no parking cops. So that was a big election issue that everyone complained about. Right now, you're not allowed to leave the home, but you can leave your car anywhere you want. That's the best I can come up with right now. I do encourage everyone to have a look at how you do utilize the mix of the different offerings that are there. What we will be doing is next week we will be having one day where we talk about all of the different stimulus and survival initiatives that have come up. Because I want to do that in one day. We'll have a lot more information because a lot more information is coming through after the event. In relation to the JobKeeper allowance yesterday, it's largely hearsay and innuendo at the moment. There's some very good guidelines, and I did post into the community earlier on today something that Matthew Scott of Xplan shared with me from the Ombudsman for small business, small and family business, and that was quite insightful. I was going to say incisive, insightful. And so, look, keep an eye on the information that's there. I want us to be working on facts. I want us to be thinking outside the box about how you can put yourself in the best position to come out of this with as many cylinders still firing, if not all cylinders still firing, because wherever there is a change, there is also opportunity. So please don't lose sight of the fact that there is opportunity out there. Look for how those different opportunities could apply to you and how you may be able to avail yourself of them. Allan, thanks very much. Allan from Encore Accounting. What's your website, Allan?
encoreaccounting.com.au. Encore spelled E-N-C-O-R-E.
We should be able to remember that. Definitely throw that into the comments below on this particular feed. Yeah, and definitely we'll see if we can have a chat again in the middle of next week.
Excellent. And I'd encourage everyone, the March quarter is about to end tonight, encourage everyone just to step back from their BAS, the March BAS, and just maximise those incentives. And if you need to look at the wages, I've done a few posts on how the tax office is treating wages where you might pay them at the end of June, but in this example, we might want to pay them in the March quarter, and physically pay some money out today into your loan account, personal account, then blend it back if you need to, so that you maximise the numerator and the denominator on which the stimulus package is based, and that is the PAYG tax deducted up to a minimum of 10, up to 50. So don't miss out on that. Step back from it, draft it, and that's what we're doing with everyone at the moment. We're saying, bookkeepers, don't you lodge, let us have a bit of a look, and let's just see what we can do to maximise what comes back. And again, it's looking across all the different packages. We've got a loan from state government, we've got JobKeeper, we've got Job Seeker, we've got, I don't know what else we can call it, stimulus. There
is a raft of different support packages, and there is also the mental health support package, which we haven't even got around to yet. I very
need that one.
about that. So, it's going to be tough times, and with that, we do want to make sure that it doesn't matter how resilient you are. At different times, anyone can succumb to challenges of mental health, particularly when things are coming out from left field and we don't know what's happening. So really that uncertainty is a critical thing. Allan, thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Those that have come along on How to Watch, fantastic. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, we're going to have a really interesting day. We're going to get onto stuff that's going to help you build your business. We're going to be talking chat box. We're going to be talking Facebook ads. And I've got a really exciting announcement about how potentially every single one of us can save money. So something completely new and unique in the marketplace. And we're doing a partnership with an organisation that's going to help us save money. So that's new for Brisbane Small Business. It's an opportunity because we're the size that we are. So please invite your friends along and let's see how we can make this community even better. Thanks very much for your time. And we'll just stare at the camera and have that little awkward space while it's stopping.